Janette Littledove was born in 1955 in Los Angeles, California, at a time when the United States was undergoing cultural shifts that would soon reshape music, film, and entertainment. She grew up in a family that carried the traditions of Cheyenne Native American heritage, and this cultural identity gave her a unique sense of pride. Her upbringing reflected both the traditions of her ancestors and the modern rhythms of Southern California. The Cheyenne community placed deep importance on storytelling, symbolism, and spiritual expression, values that Janette would carry with her into her public career. While many performers of her era were encouraged to adopt stage names that distanced them from their cultural roots, she boldly chose Littledove as her name, ensuring her Native American identity remained central to her persona. Growing up in Los Angeles also gave her access to the entertainment world. She was surrounded by Hollywood's glamour on one hand, and the thriving counterculture of the 1960s and 1970s on the other. This fusion of influences, ancestral tradition and modern creativity, would shape her career and the way she was perceived by fans. Career beginnings. Janette's path into the spotlight began with modeling and photography. Her striking features, high cheekbones, and long dark hair made her stand out immediately. She appeared in glamour shoots and promotional spreads that highlighted her natural beauty. Unlike the polished, mainstream look favored in Hollywood at the time, Littledove's appearance offered something more authentic, raw, and mysterious. By the late 1970s, she transitioned from modeling into performance work, stepping into the growing entertainment scene that was flourishing with new opportunities. Her look and presence differentiated her from the dominant styles of the day, and she quickly became a recognizable face. Rise to popularity. What made Janette Littledove exceptional was not only her beauty but also the cultural symbolism she represented. In an industry where representation of Native American women was rare and often stereotypical, Janette presented herself with dignity and strength. She didn't attempt to blend in. Instead, she leaned into her heritage, which made her one of the few Native American women to achieve visibility during this period. Fans gravitated toward her because she embodied both mystique and confidence. She wasn't simply part of the background, she demanded attention. Her performances in the late 1970s and early 1980s made her a favorite among audiences who were searching for something beyond the mainstream standard of beauty. Her stage name, Littledove, became iconic in itself. While many performers adopted glamorous or European-inspired names, hers carried a sense of identity, authenticity, and connection to her roots. For Native American fans in particular, her presence represented a rare and meaningful form of visibility. Style and persona. Janette's screen persona was defined by her commanding presence. She carried herself with confidence, and her gaze alone often captivated audiences. She was frequently described as both exotic and powerful, qualities that helped her stand apart from her peers. Her physical appearance, her long dark hair, bronze skin tone, and traditional Native American beauty, made her unique. But beyond her appearance, it was the way she embraced her cultural background that gave her career deeper meaning. In an era where indigenous representation in entertainment was often caricatured, she took ownership of her image and turned it into a form of empowerment. Industry recognition. Janette Littledove built a reputation as a performer who delivered intensity and authenticity. She worked steadily through the late 1970s and early 1980s, collaborating with both independent filmmakers and established production groups. Though not as prolific as some of her contemporaries, she left an undeniable mark. Industry insiders recognized her as someone who broadened the range of diversity on screen at a time when inclusivity was still rare. For fans, her presence was refreshing and unforgettable, and she became a cult figure whose influence stretched beyond her active years. Comparison with contemporaries. During the 1970s and 1980s, the entertainment world was dominated by performers who often fit into narrow molds of beauty, typically Euro-American women with blonde hair and blue eyes. Against this backdrop, Janette Littledove brought something entirely different. While other ethnic performers of the time were sometimes cast in limited or stereotypical roles, Janette managed to carve out her own space. She stood beside stars of the era without being overshadowed, and her performances added cultural richness to an industry that otherwise lacked representation. Cultural significance. Beyond her career, Janette Littledove's greatest impact lies in her cultural legacy. She was one of the very few Native American women to achieve mainstream recognition in the entertainment industry during her time. For many fans, especially those from indigenous backgrounds, she became a symbol of visibility and pride. Her name and image challenged the invisibility of Native American women in American pop culture. She refused to let her heritage be erased or hidden, and by doing so, she paved the way for later performers of diverse ethnic backgrounds to find their place in the spotlight. Later years and withdrawal from the spotlight. By the mid-1980s, Janette Littledove began to step away from public life. Unlike some of her peers who prolonged their careers well into the 1990s, she chose to retreat from the constant attention and maintain a low-profile, private life. Her departure left fans curious. Occasional mentions of her name in retrospectives or fan discussions kept her memory alive, but Janette herself avoided the public eye. She never sought the tabloid attention or nostalgia-driven returns that others in the industry pursued. This retreat gave her an air of mystery, adding to her enduring legacy. Even in absence, she remained a figure of fascination, remembered for both her talent and the cultural significance she embodied. Legacy. Today, Janette Littledove is remembered not only as a performer but also as a pioneer of representation. She stood proudly as one of the few Native American women in her field, ensuring her heritage remained front and center. Her choice to embrace her cultural identity, rather than conceal it, was both bold and inspiring for her time. While her active years were relatively brief, her influence has proven lasting. She continues to be discussed among fans and historians who study the cultural shifts of the 1970s and 1980s. Janette Littledove remains a symbol of beauty, independence, and cultural pride, a trailblazer whose name carries weight long after her time in the spotlight ended.